Welcome back to Survivor Breakfast. I'm Sim. I'm joined, as always, by Toast and Kale. We're talking about episode 1 of Survivor season 42. Really exciting episode. I just want to remind everybody, if you're listening on audio, that we also have our video podcast out on YouTube. You can search up the channel Survivor Breakfast, and always remember to rate and review. Always appreciated.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're going to be hopping into this episode. First things first, I kind of want to get your guys' view on, just an overview of this episode. How are you feeling? Liked it, didn't like it? And then we'll kind of get into the nitty gritty and go through the episode as it goes. But first, I'm going to toss it to you, Toast. What were your thoughts on this episode 1?
I'm just excited. I mean, Survivor's back, right? Like, back in the mix. I think that we can safely say that the good things about last season, particularly the casting, seems to have held up. It seems like we have a really nice cast. We may have gotten some things wrong. We may have gotten some things right, but we still know that, it's a very interesting cast and they're going to give us a lot in the long run. So, I'm excited. I think that there's a lot of potential, and I'm happy to get into it with you guys.
Yeah, I don't want to use the word epic because it wasn't something that was, beyond proportion, and it wasn't, absolutely crazy. The strategy was a little bit lacking, but as is in every premiere episode. But it had a little bit of everything. We're going to dissect it completely. We'll get into what I like to call my stock watch report on who I think had an amazing episode, who necessarily did not. Obviously, we saw Jackson and Zach go home, 2 boots, quote-unquote boots, that we thought we were going to see in the first episode like we did last season. They probably would have sent 2 people to tribal, 2 tribes to tribal,
I agree.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But either way,
base of that is not too exciting, right? The base of that immunity idol, the top is really cool. The base of the immunity idol is not as thrilling.
Well, it comes off the base, right?
It does, yeah. So there's the snake eating itself.
Was the base given to the other tribe?
The base was given to the other tribe, which I think may have been sort of like a
last minute little.
Because I mean, it's a tale of two cities with these immunity idols. The one is probably, honestly, one of the nicest ones that we've seen. I think it's amazing.
I tweeted that out. I tweeted that out.
Cool.
I said
you did? You hit that?
It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
eating itself snake.
It's metaphorical. It's like an Ouroboros, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's eating itself. And then the base is just complete. I mean, it could be anything. It could be a tree stump. But
I totally agree with you guys. I think that episode was really fun to watch. I'm really excited about the characters that we've got this season. Really excited to see where it goes. I don't want to say too much more because I'll just be repeating what you guys said. But let's hop into the episode. We're going to kind of go through a little bit chronologically. We'll be jumping around a little bit. But the first thing I kind of want to talk about with you guys is that first challenge that we had, the camp supply challenge, as I've been calling it, and get your guys' thoughts on that and how that went for the competitors. Kale, I'll toss it to you first.
So I first found myself analyzing who was sprinting out, and it took me a minute to realize that Daniel was running with, it was Tori and Jonathan, I think, who went out first there. And this has to be said, as it will continue to be said throughout the entirety of the season. Jonathan is in a league all in his own.
He's a beast. He's an absolute animal.
I mean, we alluded to this in the preview of all the different competitors. Is there was no one that was gonna be in anywhere near his league.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, the people that I was watching with, we were joking that when he was on that thing taking out the trunk, I thought he might be able to throw the trunk onto the beach. He's pulling the boat. Nobody is even paddling.
Like it's nothing.
It's crazy.
And
it's crazy.
Up current. Like he was like really yanking it.
Yeah, he was fighting the tides. He was going.
The thing I wanted to mention about that first runoff, Kale, was I know Jonathan was a beast in that, but Tori was no slack either.
Yeah,
she held her own.
She was ahead of him before she tripped in the forest. She was in first place. So I was pretty surprised at that. I know there's other faults we have for Tori, I think, kind of coming down the line, at least from my side. But for that, I thought she did a great job for her tribe.
No, I agree with that. And we talked a lot about this in the preview episode as well, talking about how these tribes would stack up physically. And I think it kind of went in line with how we said it, that Taku was going to be pretty dominant, and that ended up lending itself to being the case later in the immunity challenge that we'll talk about.
Yeah, and I mean they had a clear lead in the first challenge too, right? I mean, the puzzle, or in this case, that bamboo
with
stick
the
tie.
keys.
The bamboo stick thing, that thing's a
It's an
motherfucker.
equalizer. But
That
yeah,
thing's a
no, it's
motherfucker.
tough. It's tough. I mean, it's tough to be the hero role in that exact position, because
Well, I think too,
it's just
you got to
hard to
do everything
predict,
you can not to get put in that position. This
Yeah, I
early in
wouldn't
the
wanna
game.
be there.
You don't want to
Yeah.
be that person at all.
Yeah.
'Cause you fail,
Roxroy had
like-
a hot start though. Roxroy set the stage for himself pretty high, so that
Yeah.
was that
Wait,
was a good start.
let's touch on the middle part, right, with the advantage.
Oh,
that was just
absolutely.
thrown
Yeah,
out.
we got to talk about that. They had that twist. So the second leg of the race there, they ran out around the corner away from everybody, and they basically had the choice.
Post Daniel falling, I might say.
Oh,
as well.
yeah. He ate
Yeah.
it
Post
hard.
Daniel falling, which
Yeah.
we get to later.
Which
but
I
continue.
think, honestly, I mean, we can talk about it now or we can talk about it later, but I think that was really good for him because he
Yeah.
didn't do well. But by actually getting legitimately hurt, I think that helps breed some sympathy and be like, oh, he was really
Yeah.
pushing. He just didn't
Yeah.
do quite well. Like if you
As
come in
opposed
last,
to,
but don't
I
get
get what
hurt,
you're saying.
then it's like, oh, come on, man.
He had an excuse. He had an excuse.
Exactly.
And
I
he,
think,
and he
I
also
think that's helpful
he also
for him,
toughed
honestly.
it out. He also toughed it out. It's not like he got hurt and then they were done with the challenge. He got hurt in the very beginning of the challenge
And did the rest of the challenge
and then
with a
did the rest of the
dislocated-
challenge.
Yes.
Which makes him look very,
Yeah.
like it makes him look like he's resilient, which is good, a good thing, good indicator to the rest of the tribe.
We'll talk
Yeah,
about
sorry, I
this
don't wanna
later,
take
but
us-
No, it's
if,
okay.
if Vati got to tribal council, I don't think Daniel was in any way, shape, or form in a good seat. So we'll
No, I mean,
continue, but
It's all speculation.
he got a little lucky they didn't go to tribal council, in my opinion.
I hear you. Well, let's get to this twist. So they come around the corner in the second leg of this basically a relay race, and they have the choice. The three of them across the tribes can choose.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna stay here and undo these 20 knots and get an advantage altogether.
The knots
or
are
we could-
irrelevant.
Yeah, the knots. I don't know why they even did it. And then they got to cover themselves in mud and blood
Which was
to
epic.
have an
Epic.
excuse, or they can just run back right away, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. I think personally, as a little preview to my thoughts on this twist, I think High made a really big mistake in this.
With the
And
blood?
with the
Yeah.
blood, you cannot be putting the
Horrible.
blood on you.
Yeah.
People are going to
If
know you don't
if
have a cut.
Yeah, if you don't have a source of the blood, then it's like, oh, it's kind
It's
of
going
weird.
to ruin your lie. It's going to, and Lydia noticed it. She was like, "Oh my God, you're really bleeding."
Well,
yeah.
it's crazy
It's a trap.
because what are they
trap.
supposed to expect, that they
Yeah.
fought each other in a brawl? Like I don't.
Yeah, like
they
crawl
fought
through
a wild animal out in the
Barbed
woods.
wire?
I have
Like,
no
what could
idea.
it possibly have been?
Yeah.
I think that was a
So-
huge mistake. But I want to hear what you guys think. Would you have agreed to take this advantage, or would you have
Yeah.
run back?
So I think that taking the advantage is a no-brainer. I mean, that's my own internal thoughts, right? I think it was interesting that, to see whose internal thoughts aligned with what they were saying and who just blurted out what they were thinking. So I think that, Lindsay came at it pretty methodically. High came at it pretty methodically, trying to assess the other people's thought processes, right? And then I think Drea just basically said, we got to do this. This is what we're doing. Which I think is a trend with Drea. I think that, we see later on that she's very blunt with what she's thinking and how she
Yeah.
goes about what she's doing.
She doesn't give
and-
two fucks.
Yeah, but she should be able to modulate a little bit better what she's conveying to other people. We know that it's the easiest decision in the world. Am I really going to pass up on an idol, or not an idol, an advantage, and actually in the process convince two other people not to take the advantage too? I mean, it makes no sense. It's an auto, yes, we're taking the advantage, but it was interesting to see High sort of not delegate, but have a constructive conversation about it pretty quickly to say, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? These are my thoughts. High is telling us, the audience, this is a no-brainer. I got to take the thing. But the way that he's talking to the people around him is like, let's assess this a little bit, which I thought was smart and a little bit of an insight into their thinking and their thought processes.
Well, let me take it to this level. I tweeted this out as well, saying that Drea just didn't give a fuck. We'll talk about her other advantage that she ended up getting down the line as well. I did kind of love that edginess to her, and I understand what you're saying in terms of when we're talking about in a tribal setting where she's going to have to talk and deal with other people. She can't necessarily just be as blunt and kind of be blatant and do moves that are just out of left field without any thought behind any of it. I agree with all that.
Yeah.
But with that being said, a lot of that was almost internalized. It corresponded to her confessionals where she was being blunt and how she was thinking as well. So I think she put on a good front as well in terms of when dealing with her tribe mates as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it when we start talking about people, but
That's fine. So let me talk about the twist itself.
Yeah.
I do love with how they're doing this with Survivor 41 as well, that where they're trying to create these lanes where individuals can have these cross-tribal relationships that really have no other basis but these advantages or but some climbing up the mountain situation, which end up turning into an advantage. And then you go back to last season, you have the undercover situation with, who was that? Tiffany, Brad, and Sydney, was it?
Yeah.
This feels far less forced too. It feels like
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I love this angle that Survivor's playing here because it creates dynamics that hopefully and I guess that's what the producer's angle is here, is that it hopefully will create a dynamic down the line that causes some stress-induced situations, and we'll learn about the amulets a little later on. But in terms of the advantage there in that challenge, no brainer. And I like the people that ended up in that situation. I think we're going to look at 3 of the people that are a little bit long for this game. So I think that this is going to be good.
Yeah. So it sounds like we're all kind of in agreement here that you got to take this advantage. There's no there's no real downside if everyone's kind of agreeing to it, kind of thing.
And I'd just like to point out one thing, Kale. I really like how you said cross-tribal relationships because generally in historically in Survivor you talk about cross-tribal alliances, like you have like the Exile alliance that didn't necessarily work out. In this case, it's not necessarily an alliance, right? It's a relationship. It's something that is going to build, but it doesn't necessarily mean one or the other, right? They're either going to be friends or foes, and it's sort of setting that up.
Yeah, well, I think too. I think one of the things that I find interesting about this particular one compared to something like a Shipwheel Island is that Shipwheel Island, you've got a lot of time to get to know the other people that you're with on that island. In this case, they didn't have that chance to get to know each other at all. So I'm interested to see how that plays out as a kind of shared advantage, because it's not like there was a relationship built and then they got the advantage together. It's the relationship is built on top of the advantage, not the other way around, which is tricky. But so they take the advantage, and we'll talk about.
I think we could just dive into what it was, because in all honesty, they all end up reading it, whatever it was.
Yeah. So the advantage itself is that it is an advantage that must be played together. However, if it isn't played and members who have the advantage are voted out, that advantage then becomes more powerful the less people there are that are holding on to it, right? So there's 3 different levels. If there's only one person left, it counts as a full idol, immunity idol. There's only 2 people left. I believe it's a steal a vote.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 people left. I actually forget what the 3.
It's an extra vote.
It's an extra vote. It's an extra vote, right? So if they all choose to use it together, next week, they'd all get an extra vote. If one of them gets voted off, then they can, 2 people have a steal a vote, and if 2 people get voted off and one person has it left, they can use it as a full immunity idol. I'm interested to hear what your guys' thoughts are on the strategy with something like this. To me, because there's not much of a relationship, the levels of trust just aren't there for me.
Yeah.
If I'm a player and I have this advantage, my I think initial thought on this, my instinct was don't use it until the merge and hope that the other 2 get voted out.
Yeah, I mean,
and then once you're in the merge, you got to convince them, if there's still 2 of them left, to use it the first week to get rid of it, because then you are a threat to them now.
So first of all, given the way that it's structured, the advantage actually can't be played until the merge. They're on different tribes, right? So they would.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
no way
maybe
to play
they
it
could
together.
come up with some way and a challenge to signal to each other or something. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's actually a set it and forget it type of advantage where it really will only become activated once the people who have that advantage are together, which is basically the merge, right? So
Yeah.
I think that the easiest part is happening right now, where Hai, Drea, and Lindsay are just crossing their fingers, hoping that when they win an immunity challenge, the other person is just going to go away.
Yeah,
And it's free
exactly.
of cost. You increase what your advantage is, free of cost, no work to you, right?
Yeah.
I think the problem is that all three of these players have a really good shot of making the merge. So I think I think producers are probably pretty lucky that those are the three people that ran that leg of the
100%.
challenge. I think that all three of these people are going to make the merge, and it's bad for each one individually, but it's good for us.
I think you just become immediate enemies at the merge. There's no way that this works out for. I mean, you're going to go to one other person out of the three and be like, "Hey, we got to go snipe this other person," and then it'll be me and you, and then we'll play it. You know what I mean? And you all become immediate targets for each other.
Yeah,
instantaneously.
I want to dissect the details a little bit more of the entirety of the twist here. I think it was fantastic for an audience to feed on, because now we get to, have this in the back of our mind. Just what you talked about, Toast, is like, oh shit, Drea, arrives back to the next immunity challenge and sees Hai or Lindsay's gone. We get to analyze. Oh, what she? Yeah, exactly. She's got to be, so excited, but the interdynamics that will happen when the merge happens, and say all three are still there, like we all kind of agree that all three of these players are long for the game. It's a great point you just brought up, Sim, is that, will two go against one? Will they all work together? What I hope does not happen is that it gets out, and now do we try to formalize a group of people that know about it against the other two individually, so that it's, 3 versus 1 and 1 unsuspectedly? I love this twist. The angle where now they have to work together for it to work, but at the same time, there's added benefit for if they go home, the other people that they would have to work with. It's a brilliant move by the producers, and one of the reasons why this premiere, to me, was pretty well done, is that this was a twist that was very welcomed, and especially in the face of some of the shit that we saw last season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right, well, let's keep moving. The third leg of this challenge, nothing really too exciting, unless you guys have something you want to talk about in that kind of third leg. I want to kind of get into... We
already touched on Jonathan, right?
I know, we already talked about him pulling that boat. I think that was the most exciting thing that really...
They were so far ahead.
Happened there. It was crazy.
They were so far ahead.
It really does suck for Mariah, honestly, that lead was blown there.
Well, I just want to point out that the other two tribes were really much like neck and neck, right? They're evenly stacked in a way.
Yeah.
And it's just that one tribe is so far ahead, which is kind of what we thought would happen.
For sure. But, I just to kind of wrap up this first challenge, I want to just get from you guys, who do you think came out of this challenge in a really good place, and who do you think came out of this challenge in a kind of bad place? Kale, I'll kick it to you first.
Roxroy, really. The biggest takeaway was Roxroy, and again, Daniel had a low light moment for himself. So, but that that got.
I just think that's fixed. Perception, right? Everybody on the beach was like, oh, he toughed it out, like he did well.
That's what 100%. Mike was touting him up 100%. But
it sucks that he got injured. But
no, it wasn't anything big. That's why I said there's really no major takeaway from the challenge, other than it was a nice highlight moment for Roxroy. Except, honestly, it probably went to his head in the wrong way.
Yeah,
that
100%.
He came back to camp kind of on top of the world in terms of leading them in that challenge, and then he kind of assumed his leadership role. And I guess we can kind of start.
Yeah,
to talk about
we'll get
the
into that when we get to Ika's stuff after this challenge. But Toast, who do you think kind of came up on top? Who do you think is hurting a little bit?
There's not really much I can add to that. I think that Roxroy looked good. He won the challenge. Interestingly, it seems like Mariah lost the challenge, lost a huge lead, didn't get a confessional afterwards saying, oh, that sucks that she lost a huge lead. I mean, I don't really think there's any like huge losers, especially because the things that they lost were, redeemed right afterwards, right? Mm-hmm. So probably, nothing too crazy. But Roxroy definitely looked good, and I think it went to his head. I agree.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and we'll talk about that as we go along. The other thing I want to add is I know we've said it like 3 times that Jonathan is a beast, but I think that put him in a really actually good position in the short to medium term. I think normally that might put a really big target on your back. But if you're going to be dominating that hard with Jonathan,
He's
if I'm on his
untouchable.
tribe, I'm not getting rid of him.
He's
Are you kidding me?
untouchable.
I don't want to go. I'm never going to go to tribal with Jonathan on my team. Basically, as long as we can do well in puzzles, like
Yeah, it's a no brainer. It's a no brainer.
But yeah, and then
Let's go to the Savvy or Sweat, right? Did you want to touch more on the challenge? Or?
Well, I just want to say one more thing in that I think that nobody really came out in a bad position, like you said. Like nobody was really hurting after that, but I do think Hai got very lucky with the blood thing. I think if he got caught, because that was an easy catch, that's gonna be like, why are you lying about this blood right now? Like that could have been a huge problem, and I don't know how it wasn't, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they didn't. I tweeted this out as well, saying that I would love to hear the backstories that all three of them gave back to their tribes when they had to explain what the blood was all about, because that could have been hilarious. But
I know.
I don't honestly think it was that big a deal. Yes, it was like an ample amount of blood that Lydia was like, "Oh my god, like what is going on?" But either way, nobody's seen a twist like this before, so they can't necessarily suspect anything.
Yeah, I think the blood is like the same thought process as like the quirky phrases. It's more for us, like I don't think it hurt or helped anybody. It was just funny to see that this guy was caught, like people speculating, if we can empathize with the people on the beach. Oh my God, they're taking so long. Like, I mean, you could say that they went through a pit of alligators, you have no idea what they're doing.
I guess.
So for us, it's funny, But
I mean, I think the producers wanted them to have to come up with a lie. I think they wanted to create the drama.
Potentially.
Personally. But let's keep moving. Let's go on to the Savvy or Sweat. So same thing that we saw last season, where the group had to kind of decide, hey, are we going to be filling up this huge tub of water with these heavy buckets, and we have 4 hours to do it, or are we going to have to count how many triangles are in this complicated kind of diagram? Interesting. It seemed like to me, and maybe I was wrong about this, but that they had changed the sweat portion a little bit.
They changed both.
They changed both of them, right? It was. I think they tried to even them out because everybody basically picked sweat last time, and now everybody picked Savvy. It seems like they might have swung, the pendulum too much, but.
Yeah. So I think that it's interesting. They changed two variables. It's a tough test to run, right? Because you would want to change one and see what happens then.
Exactly.
But they really made... I think that the change to make Savvy, you have two guesses as opposed to one, was not nearly as significant as changing the amount of people that can do the sweat.
100%.
Because if you have two people, you're having a conversation, you're able to create a bond. Nobody wants to be that one person that gets the finger pointed at them to do that. So everyone is incentivized to just say, hey, let's just figure out this puzzle. We get two guesses.
I love the angle that Mike took. I mean, he said right away, he's like, let me look at the rest of this tribe. Something I guess you pinpointed that he thinks he's the muscle, and I think that it was probably true that he was the muscle, even though candidly I think you're still way off. I'm not an ageist, but I don't think that
who on that tribe do you think is stronger than Mike?
No,
though?
I said that the tribe's a mess. So other than Jenny, I think being brilliant in puzzles, as she will take over in the Savvy portion of this entire event here, they're a mess in terms of physicality. I think.
Yeah, they're kind of like a cohesive mess though, in a weird way. Like they're
that's fine, and it got them to avoid tribal. So yeah, I'm with that. Yeah. But to rally it back here. Mike, with a brilliant, foresight, saying that, hey, I'm the one that's going to get fucked here. Let me take this pail and say, oh yeah, this pail's like 120 pounds. Like this thing's fucked up. Like I can't carry this all day long, and no one's going to want to carry this all day long. I love that too. But I was excited to see people do the triangles because what happened last season was, all right, it was kind of, we got the Danny Deshawn relationship out of it, and I forgot who did it on the other tribe, but
it was Xander and Voce, right?
Yeah, Voce was upset, very upset that
Xander was like, "Let's do it."
Yeah, so we got to see a different element of what these players were all about, and including the coming out of Jenny being a puzzle queen.
Yeah, and also I think it was the producers. I mean, Jeff in the beginning is like, we have this advantage. we know how players in 41 did. You know how players in 41 did based on the twists that were there, but these players don't. So we're going to change some of the variables. I think it was nice that they put this one thing where they changed two of the variables in this exact thing, and sort of I'm hoping that it's a foreshadowing for how they're going to adjust and modify things along the way. I think it was nice that they made those two things right away, right off the bat, because it shows that there's been sort of tweaking, and that's what we were kind of worried about,
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked, and it's just kind of a twist of fate that allowed this, but that the groups had overlapping guesses. I thought that was really fun, that like one group guessed 50-51, one guessed 51-52, and it's like, ooh, they're either both right or it's only one of them. Like what is it going to be? I thought that was really cool. Although it did kind of give away that somebody had it if they're both that close. Basically, like,
yeah, I was surprised that there
wrong.
definitely was not a miss, but I guess that they added the element that they can guess both at the same time.
Yeah,
yeah. So hero of the moment, I think for Vati is Jenny, right?
Absolutely.
She came through. She was like, everybody's guessing all of these guesses way too quickly. Are they seeing something I'm not seeing? She took the time. She's meticulous, and we see that later on. She's very thoughtful, it seems, and she just picks up the pieces. I mean, she just does what she needs to do.
Yeah, she did a great job. I think she came out now maybe a little worrying that she came out maybe looking a little strong there too. So, got to watch out for that, but definitely communicating to us like, oh, okay, she's going to be their puzzle person. She's great at that stuff. And I think it's important for their group as much as the Jonathan group is to know that he's strong
I was
athlete.
Literally about to say the same point. Is that
it's like
I think Jenny's as untouchable as Jonathan is on top.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah.
Both of them. For sure. Yeah, I think,
and then you take it to the Taku, right? We can look at how they managed the savvy. Like they went about it a different way, right? They divided and conquered. They're like, Jonathan's
the three of them said, "Fuck this, I can't."
Jonathan's
do it.
like, I am at least 40 triangles off in this guess. I'm walking away.
I appreciated his self-awareness there. That he was like, yeah, look, I'm just not the puzzle guy, and that's good too, because if he was also a puzzle guy, he's an immediate boot. You know what I mean? You can't have somebody who's good at puzzles and is that strong. I was kind of thinking though that like I was already thinking at that point, I have it in my notes here actually, that splitting up was a bad move for the tribe overall, because it's already creating divisions. Like it's a lose-lose for the tribe's cohesiveness by splitting up 3 doing the puzzle and 3 doing the shelter. Because if they get the puzzle right, everyone's excited, but it creates a very strong bond between the 3 people who actually solve the puzzle. If they get it wrong, then the 3 who didn't build the puzzle are upset with the 3 who did the puzzle, even if it's just subconsciously. I think it's a move that is bound to hurt cohesion in some way or another. Whether in a positive direction or a negative direction.
I think that that's the more rational approach. I'm kind of disagreeing with what you're saying in a way. I think it's more rational what they did to split up the duties and the responsibilities.
Totally.
Trusting that the people who are saying that they're able to do it are able to do it. I think that also just based on what we see, especially like later on with the tribe dynamics, we didn't really get too much of Taku. But
agreed.
The people that stayed around, Omar, Lindsay, and Marianne, I don't know if those are like, the 3 tightest people on the beach, and then the opposite 3 are the 3 tightest. So, but
we know that now. I think at the time though, it's like as a group, but nobody knows who's going to be the close people.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think the alternative of like, everybody shouting out guesses, 6 people, it's probably too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Like some people are not meant to be doing this right now, and it may actually have detracted from getting the right answer. I don't know. Maybe the point is moot, right? Like, I mean, they both got it, right?
Yeah.
So they did something right.
And we haven't seen any consequences for what I'm saying. So,
Before we dive into Ika, I wanted to mention that I think this is where I tweeted out Marianne. I think it took her about 30 minutes to become the odds-on lock favorite to be the fan favorite of this season. She's going through doing the triangles in her head with the biggest smile there ever was. She already was full of joy during the opening challenge.
Absolutely.
She's truly amazing, and I am excited to watch her role during the entirety of this season. I'm pretty sure I saw a something of note that she had the most confessionals last night.
I think she had 6.
Yeah, she was tied with Omar. I think
too.
Omar had 6 as well, and I think Zach and Tori may have been in that category as well, but rightfully so because they were going to tribal. But for 2 people in Marianne and Omar's sake that didn't go to tribal, that was pretty telling.
Kale, what do you think Sia thinks of Marianne right now? You think
Sia the singer?
Yeah. You think she's looking at the TV like she's getting all my money, Because she gives the, at the reunion, she's like, she gives the Sia money,
I forgot
Marianne's
about that.
the lock for the Sia money.
I forgot about that. She's good for that, or wasn't it like sprint, like the sprint check or something like that?
I think that stopped in 26, season 26, season 25. Yeah, but
there was a lot of love. There was a lot of love for Marianne on Twitter, and it was rightful because she was amazing. And it took her 30 minutes to become the fan favorite, in my opinion.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, so after that sweater savvy, we had some time with the tribes to get to know people, see them setting up their camps and stuff like that. So let's kind of go through tribe by tribe and talk about what we were seeing and what we liked, what we didn't like about different people, the way they're acting in camp, and how we think those kind of relationships are kind of panning out. I actually want to hold off hopping into Ika because they're the ones who went to tribal. I want to keep them for a little bit later. Let's first hop into Vati. We talked about how Jenny really killed it in that set or sweat or savvy. But I want to see what you guys think of what that camp life looked like on that first view. We got to spend some time with them. What were your guys' kind of thoughts there?
Well, I think a lot of what I predicted for this tribe, I'm sorry, I think I'm kind of right here. I think Mike's going to be a likable character for everybody on that tribe, and they went into this whole dynamic of pairing.
That was your
up.
take?
That was my take. Come on now. So Mike ended up pairing up with Jenny, which I think's going to work out well for the 2 of them. Yeah. Now, I said that Lydia's going to be the wild card, and it looks like Hai and Lydia are getting tight together, and then what ended up being the makeshift outside pairing was Chanel and Daniel. Now, I don't know if they truly bonded other than just being on the outside of the other 2 pairings. Mm-hmm. And we didn't really get too much takeaway other than, this dynamic from the tribe. But, I don't think Daniel's in a great spot. I mean, we'll talk about this in the preview and later on. Mm-hmm. But in terms of them not being as tight, I mean, you got to think that they'll be the 2 to flip-flop come time of choosing between 2 pairings or whatever, and I guess that puts them in a power position, except if the other 2 pairings team up together. And I don't know if these pairings even matter for the long-term game. Yeah. But either way, the fact that those 2 were just happened to be a circumstance pairing, I don't know.
Hey, I actually agree with you here, Kale. I don't think that Daniel is in a great place in this tribe, and I think it is the fact that he's drawn a lot of attention to himself without also having the requisite, benefit to the tribe. Like, I don't know if I'm phrasing it right, but like you said, him and Chanel were kind of on the outside there, but I think Chanel's in a better place than he is because she hasn't drawn as much attention. Like, they both haven't really done much.
If it
for the
comes
tribe,
down to,
but he's had more attention on him, so he's a lot easier to be like, oh yeah, Daniel, let's get out Daniel. Yeah, and that definitely makes me worried for him.
He doesn't have anybody fighting in his corner. I mean, that's what it seems.
Chanel
off
said
the start.
Chanel said, if your name gets brought up, I'll let you know. But
yeah,
so
but that was. Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just going to give, sort of my takeaway. I think that it's interesting that this tribe was really the only one that was sort of divided into twosomes. I think that, a tribe of 6 lends itself towards that, right? Because then the 2 can pair up with another 2 and take out a different 2, right? We saw that a lot actually last season, especially towards the end game. There were, multiple groups of two. So it's interesting how that shook out. The reason why we bring up age a lot too is that sometimes this happens where the two oldest people on the tribe sort of connect together like that, and we saw it play out, right? I think that going back on our previous points, the fact that Mike is, a big guy, and I don't think that they're going to go for him, and Jenny is so invaluable in puzzles, I think that they're the most desirable twosome to link up with.
Absolutely.
Because you could say that the four younger people will get together against the older people, but the older people are actually like pretty valuable at this point. I don't see that happening as much. I do think that the weakest of the two, like you said, are Chanel and Daniel. I think that Chanel was very much under the radar this episode. I think that might be a good thing if we're looking at seasons past, especially with some recency bias. But I think that I'm excited to see what Chanel does. But then I also want to point out that I think that my interpretation of what High would be like when he was out there was not exactly what he was like, because he's pairing with Lydia, who's obviously quirky and very much like social and people person. I'm picturing like High is a data scientist, like black and white number cruncher. You know what I mean? He has a lot of personality. He's a little
he's a fun guy.
He's a fun guy. So it's
an element that you need to have though as well.
Yeah, of course, but like he talked about how he looks up to Yule when he was watching as a young kid. He's not really like Yule in that sense. Yule is pretty, dry humor. Like Yule is very like methodical, political. I think that High has that aspect to him, but I think it's interesting that High went towards Lydia and like they were like, Lydia was like, I think we're the same person, but just different in a way. And I'm like, you're the same person? I would never have guessed that. Sort of going into the season. I think that they're actually pretty tight. So it's interesting. I want to see how this shakes out because I do believe that two of the twosomes will come together and take out one of the twosomes. I think that the Daniel Chanel twosome is probably the weakest, and I think we probably all agree on that.
Yeah,
well, if that's
the case, I think the person who's left out of that twosome that gets targeted, if that does happen, is in
Chanel.
a really good position. Because now they're truly swing vote. You know what I mean?
For sure.
2v2v2, you're not. One of the two is going to get taken out. But 2v2v1, that one, everyone's fighting for them because that's your third vote against the other two.
Yeah, I agree. I can see that playing out. I can see that definitely playing out.
All right, cool. Well, that's kind of our overview for Vati there. Let's go over to Taku. We've got the absolute challenge master Jonathan on this tribe. We've also got a very good challenge person here too with Lindsay. I think she's also there as well.
She was sprinting in the first challenge. I forgot that she was sprinting like
she was way ahead of like High. Oh my god,
she was going like in a track meet. It was crazy.
Yeah. I think you can just add Omar into that mix. I mean, Omar really pulled his own for every aspect.
Honestly, I think they all did. I think Marianne was perfectly fine as well.
I think they all did great. I think the thing though that we really should be talking about with Taku Tribe is the Jackson having to leave the show. We've got to go through it. So Jackson was unfortunately asked to leave the show by production. He did not inform production that he was going off of his medication until a day before the shooting, and they gave him a chance and said, hey, maybe it'll be okay. But I think with more thought and a little bit of space from the decision, I think production probably came to the decision, hey, we don't want to risk anybody's health here, and unfortunately had to ask him to
I'm gonna put you both
show.
on the hot seat. I'm gonna put you both on the hot seat right now. Would you disclose or would you play it like Jackson played it in terms of his position?
I think it's a tough decision, honestly. I know.
Wait, what?
No, well, it's not. The reason why you have to is because, Simi, I think you might be a little bit off in exactly what happened. He was trying to wean off of the lithium, but then he couldn't wean off of the lithium, so he had to be getting lithium. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. You have to disclose it because he still needed his medication. He wasn't going to just find it on the beach, right?
Which then led to there's complications if you take it in this survivor setting.
Yeah, so I mean, I can kind of speak to it a little bit if you guys are interested. I had a boards question on it actually recently.
Well, hold on. I wanted to know your take, knowing that you still needed it. Well, I guess then you kind of had
You
to
have
disclose
to.
it at that
You have
point.
to
Yeah, you
disclose
got to
it.
say
Yeah,
something.
but would you have
But
waited?
that's
Would you have
the
waited?
difference,
Would you
though.
have waited like he waited?
But
so that you could...
he waited because he thought that he was going to be able to get off of it. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Is he didn't say something because he thought he wouldn't have to, and then when he realized, oh, I actually do have to now. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
like
he had to. He had to say it. He thought he would get off of it in time, and he didn't. So he needed it, and therefore he had to say it. And there's no real.
Yeah, but you still could have said something when
Earlier.
you started the
That, hey,
process
I'm
of trying
weaning
to
off of-
wean off.
No, for
But
sure, and that
I
was their
think-
criticism.
I think
That was their
probably what
criticism.
was going through his head was, if I say this now, I'm gonna get booted immediately because they have time to replace me. Because
No, so that's why I ask you the question: is
why
that
deal
would
with
you
the
have
hassle?
played it that way
I
if
think
you were
honestly,
in his position?
I there is a universe where I do the exact same thing Jackson did.
I
honestly,
completely agree.
100%.
It's a once in a lifetime
guys,
event.
I don't know about this.
I don't
'Cause-
necessarily think it's the right decision. I think you should say something from the outside, but I think if you're in that scenario, you're like, hey, I think I can make this, and if I can, then it's fine.
Yeah,
And if I
so-
don't, on average, I think you probably actually stay on the show more times in that scenario if you wait. Like if you run that scenario 100 times,
Yeah, but
and
what's
you're trying
the
to
point
wean
of
off.
doing that? I mean, I think that it's pretty
You have no
short-sighted.
chance to get on the. You get no chance to get on the show.
Well, okay,
So-
wait, hold on. Let me flesh out my thoughts. So one, this is if the drug is dangerous in certain scenarios, especially like this, right? It has what's called it's a narrow therapeutic index. The amount that you need to take to get a therapeutic effect is very close to the amount that you would take in that would cause adverse effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want drugs that you just need to take a little bit and it gives you the therapeutic effect. And if you take a lot of it, really a lot of it, that's when it causes adverse effects. So there's this really narrow range, right? They can't run this risk because he's still getting the lithium on the beach. And he's losing muscle mass. He's losing water weight. His metabolic processes are completely different on the island than they were at home, right? So we have no idea what's going to happen here. They can't titrate that drug to the exact amount that it needs to be at any given point in the game. So that's one. That's the medical sort of aspect of it. But then on the production side, right? I think that Jeff prefaced with saying, we wanted you out here. You were, basically a first round pick. I think that if he had said, hey, guys, I thought I had something managed. I don't have it managed. Not only do I need access to this drug that's very finicky, like if he had said that, I think that they may have been like, okay, we're gonna reassess this. We're gonna get you medically cleared, and then you can come out on 43, 44, 45. I don't know why.
You can't run that. You
but he
can't
did
run
tell
that
them,
risk.
Toast. He did tell them before.
He told them with one day to spare.
Of course.
So the thing that I'm confused about is they have alternates. I mean, unless
Well,
they
that's
change
that's who got fucked in the situation. Although, like I said, I was very excited to see the long story of Jackson in this game because.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So why if they have alternates on site? I mean, I think that it does them a disservice, and I don't mean to be insensitive to the Jackson aspect of it. As a person, he wants to go on Survivor. It's been 9 years in the making. I get that, but in a sense, it does take away from the other people on your tribe. It does take away from people that want to be on the show, and I think that it's not a great move on anyone's part because production probably knew that they couldn't do this. I don't know why they think, nothing's going to happen.
I don't know. They said that they needed to crunch the numbers, quote unquote.
Kale, they have medical staff that's able to put Daniel's shoulder back in place in 2 seconds. They know the medical properties of this drug, right? I think.
Yeah, but you just talked about that there's a percentage chance that it wasn't going to be an issue.
I think that regardless, it's an insurance issue. It's like
absolutely, and that's what they were avoiding. Ultimately.
I'm not going to wait until this guy has a really bad toxicity from.
So
this,
then, what do you think the purpose was of?
I don't
putting
know.
Him out
that's
there?
what that's actually where I come in and I say I don't really know what the best. They were put between a rock and a hard place. Production. I think that they. In a perfect world, they would have put out somebody who they knew was medically cleared, who would be able to stand their own and be voted out like everybody else. I think that would be in a perfect world.
I don't think it was cut and dry as you want to make it. I don't.
They're basically saying that, if you go onto the show, you're going to lose a lot of weight. That's always what happens. You're losing a lot of weight. Your body is changing over time. They know that. They don't have to wait 48 hours to realize, oh my gosh, his body is different now, and it will be for the next 26 days. So I think it was kind of a drop ball, honestly.
Of course, I think it's a bad situation all around, but we don't know what's going behind, what's going on behind, production closed doors. Like, I don't know. I think we're making guesses. I think we're just making guesses. I think it's a terrible situation. We really wanted to see Jackson.
Obviously, I wanted to see a lot more Jackson, not just because I had him as my winner pick.
Yeah, his story is amazing. His
story was amazing, and it was actually going to play out everything that we got heated about in the preview, talking about his honesty becoming paramount in how he was going to play this game, which seemed to be how he was approaching it.
Yeah. It's a good point.
I really wanted to see. I wanted to see how that was going to transpire over the long haul because,
you don't get a lot of players like that anymore.
No.
Well, I would say that
Toast said that it wasn't going to lend well in terms of long-term strategy, but there was still an element of how he was eloquent with how he spoke about the situation. Even his confessionals were pretty good. There was a lot I liked about how he was approaching step by step everything that was going on. So it does really suck.
His honesty, I think, when we prematurely talked about what that meant in the context of the game, it seems like he was trying to say that he was going to be honest with his story, right? With transitioning over the course of 9 years, as you said, applying to Survivor over the course of 9 years. I think that he was received well by everyone on that beach. I think that that's where the honesty came into play in his, what he was trying to bring to his game. I don't know if it would have translated to, I found an idol, let me be honest about it. So I think that
that's what I had always said.
I know. I'm happy that was sort of cleared up because I think that's what he was referring to. And I really think that his story spoke to everybody that was watching and also to the tribe. As we saw when he was sort of taken away by Jeff, I mean, we talk about Marianne being so likable. I mean, it's so clear how empathetic she is as a human to really just totally let go and know this is just a horrible situation. She's in the same situation, similar. If this were to happen to her, what would it be like? And she just completely was in the moment with Jackson, felt really bad. And I think that, lends towards her likability too.
Yeah, well, I think we all agree. It's sad that Jackson's left. We wish it could have worked out better. Regardless of what happened behind the scenes, he seemed like he was going to be a really great character. But let's keep it moving. And I guess I'd put it up to you guys. What do you guys think? Do you want to talk about Ika right now, or do you want to hold off and talk quickly about Ship Wheel Island and the immunity challenge? And then kind of get into Ika. What do you guys think is you want to do?
I think we could just touch briefly on Ship Wheel. We didn't get a lot from it other than I think predominantly they went into the montage about Marianne. I think is when
absolutely
that happened.
Getting a lot of screen time.
Yeah, well, I said this early on is that from my quote unquote stock watch alert, Marianne was number one in terms of through the roof in terms of how she got a lot of good face time during this episode, and I do like her prospects down the road. In terms of another person that was on that island with her was Drea. I like her stock moving forward as well. She comes out of this episode with two separate advantages. I know we can dive into this when we get into Ika.
And I think Jenny shows her character too in this exact.
I think she shows the character. I think she shows the dynamic a little bit that Vati's still in a feeling out phase. The whole point that they're 2-2-2, yeah. I mean, maybe her vote really truly was a little bit more, needed at that point in time. I think it's a testament to what I will talk about with Drea moving forward. And when we get into Ika, I really do think Drea not only doesn't give a shit and she'll get whatever she needs to get for the long term of the game, but I actually do think that she was able to feel out that she was in a powerful position within Ika, so she can do that without really risking too much. It didn't seem like she was phased, and maybe that's talking to what you talked about before, Toast, that she maybe should have been a little bit more phased and a little bit more worried. But again, two people that I thought had the most upside coming out of this episode was Drea and Marianne were both on that island.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I think Marianne, like you said, came off very, very likable. I really like the story that
Amazing.
they were telling there. It's great. I have to say though, I think the person I came out of that Shipwheel Island most excited about is Jenny.
Yeah.
She's the only
Yeah.
one, at least in the edit, who very clearly articulated, I'm thinking about what the other people are picking,
Yeah. Yep.
and I'm going to base my decision solely off of that. Right?
Yeah.
She said, I really think that there's a high likelihood that both of these other people risk their vote, and so I
Yeah.
have to save my vote. Now there is a decision there as well to say maybe I risk it if I feel comfortable enough so that they lose their votes, but I think that's a much riskier play. But I think Jenny really came out of that Shipwell Island looking very, very smart. The other two, their kind of reasoning, especially Marianne's, was thinking about, past players have always said they wish they did the riskier thing. They wish they played harder. And that's
Yeah.
how she came to her decision. But I really liked how Jenny came to it by
That's great.
looking at the people that she's just spent the afternoon with and make her decision that way.
So just to add to that point, because I think it's a really good one, I think that Jenny brought the same sort of patience and methodical thinking that she brought to the Savvy puzzle to Shipwheel Island. So I think that, that's a great point, that she was thinking about what other people were thinking. And I know that we talked a little bit about, like, maybe we haven't touched on it yet, but we, like playing poker. I feel like this is sort of akin to Jenny had a really good hand. I think she made a good laydown is what it was. She folded a good hand. The math was in her favor. The math was in her favor. It's been touched on before because this is the same iteration that we had in 41, but the math is sort of in your favor to risk your vote, and I think she made a good fold, is what it was. So she's thinking, she's logical, but she's also intuitive, right? She's able to make that tough decision.
Yeah, totally agree. I think I really like those points there, Toast. All right, so that's our quick touch on Shipwheel Island. So let's talk about. I think we should quickly touch on the immunity challenge.
Yep.
There as well. We were seeing a lot of that Ika dysfunctionality that we were talking about last week, I think.
Oh, it was brutal to watch.
It was really bad. They were really stuck in that net. And I think this is something that we haven't touched because we haven't really talked about Ika a lot, but the bossiness coming out of Roxroy is really making me nervous for him, honestly.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think he's coming off well socially. The stock is going down for Roxroy, and it's sad because that name is so cool. But like, that was brutal from my side, honestly. But excited to hear what you guys think.
Let me talk about how I was very confused, to be honest with you. They came out of the initial challenge, on a high. And when they were just wiped, and then when they talked, we'll get into it, and when they talked post-challenge about how Drea's like, Roxroy was doing jack shit, and there was no one helping me anywhere. It was like, what the hell is going on? I mean, it looked physically exhausting. I can't take that away from any of the tribe. It looked physically exhausting. But what this challenge, showed us was what we were talking about. Taku was in a league of its own, and then it came down to the puzzle between the other two tribes. And again, the puzzle queen Jenny came through, and that was a difference maker because Ika doesn't really have the physical prowess, and neither does Vati. So that's where it all went, kind of.
So it should be pointed out, right, that it originally was meant for 6 people, right? That boat is supposed to be lifted by 6 people. And so obviously something that is already a grueling challenge is made even more, grueling because it's you're out in the heat. The puzzles take at least a half an hour, right? Like we're seeing it in 15 seconds or whatever, but like they're out there for a while. It's tough. I do think that Jenny showed her puzzle prowess, and I think that Ika showed that it was a little bit, as a tribe, a little bit behind the 8 ball. Interestingly, as we said, we're going to talk about Ika now, but in some of Zach's exit interviews, right, not to bury the lead, but he basically said Ika is losing that challenge 100 times out of 100. So it's like the writing was sort of, Well,
Toast, and I agree with you that challenge was meant for 6 people, but Ika was very far behind.
Very far.
Even the second,
I know.
You know what I mean? So I think...
who sat for them? Swati or Zach?
Romeo.
Romeo sat?
Yeah, Romeo sat. Which
I can't wait to talk about. I can't wait to talk. Let's
get into Ika. Let's talk about Ika. Let's talk about the, so we all know Zach got booted in that vote. Let's talk about post post that immunity challenge, as well as maybe, what we think Zach could have done differently to keep himself in the game, if anything. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that stuff.
Well, what happened was when we, if you dial it back to earlier in the episode, and we had what happened with Roxroy, Drea, and Romeo.
Yeah,
that alliance held through the entirety of the episode. It got dicey there for a little bit. No,
got a little shaky.
It got shaky, but that's really what prevailed at the end of the day, because the targets at the end of the day were Tori and Zach. That was who everybody was deciding between. Yes, Drea wanted to then target Roxroy because he came out looking like a clown out of the the immunity challenge. If everything that she said was true and Drea was really the only force doing anything, it was a bad look for Roxroy. It was already a bad look when everybody was tired of his antics at camp earlier in the episode. So. Yeah. At the end of the day, that's what prevailed. Those three. You disagree?
Well, I just want to quickly say, I do think that, on paper that alliance, pulled through, but I think we can't forget that interaction that Romeo had with Roxroy and Swati, where Romeo was like, I do not want to be voting for Zach right now. And Roxroy put his foot down and said, no, absolutely not. We're voting for Zach. That's it. And I think that bodes ill for this alliance, medium to long term.
Yeah,
especially.
Drea said the same thing.
And she was ready to go after Roxroy. She wanted to get rid of him.
Yeah, but that doesn't talk to my point. Saying that, all that really says is that Romeo then deferred, as did Drea deferring on the Roxroy element of it. So that's my point: is that they all deferred at the end of the day and said, "All right, let's stick together for this vote." Yes.
I have to ask you, actually, did Romeo vote for Zach?
Yeah, it was unanimous. Yeah. So
was it?
Okay. Yeah, Kale. I think what you're trying to say is that interestingly,
no, it is what I am saying. What I am saying.
Okay, is that they were all cooperating, but in a really sloppy way. They were all deferring.
The tribe
to one
was a
another.
Mess. We said that from the get-go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that aspect. I do. But it was a unanimous vote, right? So I think that. We'll talk about the players on Ika. I'm down to talk about them right now because we're here.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, so I think that the edit really showed Tori as like the second option, and I don't necessarily think it was as clean cut as that. One reason why I think that is Zach played the shot in the dark, which was something that we only saw once at the merge, which was super chaotic. The whole point of the shot in the dark is to prevent, people from saying, hey, you are my target. He really probably got a bad vibe from everybody that he was the target. I think it was probably
That wasn't just an edit, though. That wasn't just an edit. He talked about him and Tori being the two focal points at Tribal. He said that.
No, but what I'm saying is that I don't necessarily think that Tori was in as hot water as the edit suggests.
Well, I think at the very least, Tori didn't think she was. I think that to me was a defining factor of this episode, where I think Tori had a lot of overconfidence in a lot of different scenarios.
Well, she was fine.
I know she was fine, but I don't know that that's gonna,
hold
make her last
on.
very long.
Let me dial this back. Whatever the percentage was of who was the second option and how much in trouble that second option was, unless you want to say it was 100% Zach, 100, the entirety of the episode, are you saying that someone else was the de facto number two there?
I think that the way that Survivor's usually edited, so that it's like kind of a. It's either this person or this person. It has to be that way, just as a narrative, you know. But I don't think that there really was a second option as clearly as it was shown in the episode. That's all I'm saying.
Well, at the very least, Zach thought it was.
For sure, that's okay. I'm okay with that. But he didn't think about it. He didn't think that. He probably thought it was closer than it was, but he still played the shot in the dark.
I guess, I think that was smart. I think it was a smart choice from him. Obviously, I can say that in hindsight, he got all the votes.
The shot in the dark. The only time to play a shot in the dark is the first episode, in my opinion.
That's an interesting thing, and I want to come back to that. But I think, to me, the biggest failure that Zach had in that episode, and I think he could have saved himself in this episode. And I think his failing point here in this episode was deciding for himself, I will never work with Tori. Because of the perceived slight of her throwing him under the bus, which I don't think she was thinking about it like that. I don't think she was at all.
It was
And
paranoia.
and as soon as he said, "I'm never working with her," that was when he was going home. Because if he truly believes that him and her are the two most likely to go home, then you should be going to her and be like, "Hey, let's figure something out here. Let's throw it on somebody." Like obviously, you can say like maybe the best move is to throw it on that second person and hope that it works out. But he should, to me, he should have been going to Tori and been like, "Look, we're both on the bottom too. Let's grab. Do we know of anybody that we can steal right now as a vote?" Which Tori did know somebody that she could have stole. She probably could have gotten Drea because she was pissed off at Roxroy.
Yeah, there was definitely a lack of communication between the two of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That
And
would
if you
have been
got
better.
those three, you probably, I think, with a little bit of effort, could have gotten Swati too, because you created that little bit of an alliance earlier with the young
We didn't
people.
get nearly enough from Swati. I have no insight into.
No,
where
I know. I don't
her
really
head
have an
was
insight
at
on
all.
her either. I can't
She
really
seems
say either
kinda
way.
collected,
But I
though,
think that
I
if
have no
Zach-
idea. They showed barely anything.
Yeah, they didn't really show anything. I think though, if Zach had gone to Tori and had said,
Yeah,
"We're the
clear.
bottom two, let's do it," I think he had a real chance at saving himself
Hold on.
there.
No,
And I think that was a big
he-
mistake.
I don't think that they were even the bottom two necessarily yet. So it's even. I think it's even.
Yeah.
It's
See,
even.
that's where I disagree with you. So it's to me
Drea was
you're
full steam ahead saying Roxroy.
I
think
understand
if
that, and I
Zach
still
Tori
think the
heard
direction's
that, they
gonna
would be like, yeah,
I
Yeah,
understand
but
that,
Zach was never going to do that because he decided
because he decided not to
ever
talk.
going to work
exactly.
with Tori.
Exactly.
Hold on. Where that all fell apart was Zach was the one who told Tori about she fucked up when she went alone looking for, what was she looking for? Tapas? What was she looking for?
She was looking for an idol, but she told
Taro.
him she was looking for Toro, which is like,
Toro. Was
Tar-
that's like a
Taro
fruit?
No, I think she was. She was genuinely doing that too.
No way!
she was doing a little bit of both.
Why-
Mostly
why would
idol
you-
hunting, but she
Dude,
probably
why
was
would-
looking
blinded
out
right
for
now.
Toro.
You're blinded right now.
Why
You're
would she lie
blinded
to
right now.
us? Why would she lie
What?
to us, the viewer?
She
Why would
said she said that I
She
can
said,
make
"Yeah,
this
I'm
up
out
that
here
I'm
looking for idols too." But
Yeah, she said,
with a
I'm looking
smile
for
on
food,
her
but
face.
what they don't
Literally
know
during
is
the
while I'm out
confessional,
here.
she had sarcasm written all over her face.
Well, I know. Well, also,
And
I
she
mean,
had
that was
sarcasm the entirety of the episode.
that was
Jeff
also a
called her
crazy
out
move
at
for her.
Tribal.
She said in a confessional, "I'm out here and they have no idea I'm looking for an idol," which is nuts. That was nuts.
That's a little. That's
that
a little
was
off.
that was
Yeah.
that was their biggest overconfident moment. I was
For
like,
sure.
how could you
For
ever
sure.
think this?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how well this, segues into this, but I think that Drea basically did the same thing. I mean, she went off
but
to read
Drea's
her
got the
Kale,
numbers.
Kale. She went to read her advantage and she said, "Everybody's going to think that I'm looking for an idol, but I don't care." She just said it. I don't care.
She didn't care.
Why do you think she's taking that mindset? Other than the fact that she doesn't give a shit,
It's a bad mindset.
said.
It's a bad
you see,
mindset.
She knows she's got the numbers. She can target Roxroy, but she's got Roxroy
thinks
in her
she
pocket
does.
at the same time.
But it's the same thing as earlier as we talked about, like her just saying exactly what we should do with the advantage. It's the same as her reading the advantage and saying the amulet advantage and just saying, "Oh, I got to get these guys out." She's just saying everything that she's very self-interested and she's overtly self-interested. She's not
understand that, but I
modulating she's not modulating the way that she is coming off to other people. And-
I think you're
which is
severely
nice.
underestimating what the relationships that we're not being seen built. Is that I think the reason she
Okay.
has part of the reason she has this mindset is that she has some confidence in the relationships that were already built here.
I think she should have more confidence in the fact that they can't afford to lose her. I think that she's a great challenge.
That's
asset.
also the point. That's also a part of
But
it.
she should probably care if people think she's looking for an idol.
Yeah,
No?
she should.
But-
I mean, you got to agree that she should care about that, Kale. From a strategic standpoint, she should care that people think
why
that
I'm
she's
coming
looking
at
for an idol.
Toast here is that for anybody to say that she came away, at least from this episode, being a person that was being a little bit more reckless than Tori you're out of your mind. Tori was way more reckless.
I agree personally. Tori
Yeah, but
was
he
more
doesn't.
reckless.
He doesn't agree.
Well, I don't necessarily think that it's a matter of recklessness. I just think that Tori and Drea did basically the same thing. And one person was perceived in a negative way and the other person was perceived as, it doesn't really matter. But I think that was a circumstantial thing. I think that was not, I don't think that that's like, they did the same exact thing.
I think what
Yeah, but
Kale
you
is
don't know
arguing
in
is
the
that,
manner
is
of
that
which they
he
did it.
believes that Drea thought she had more reason that she could do that than
Yes.
more
Fair.
justifiable
Okay,
reasons than Tori did.
That's fair. Although
Yeah.
I don't think it's enough to justify it. I think you probably agree
I still
with me,
think
right?
it's a bad move. I agree. Well, Kale, I want to go back to you though. I want to go back to the Zach thing. Do you think there is a way that Zach could have saved himself here
No.
this week? You don't think there's any way in hell once they got back from that immunity challenge? There's nothing he could have done.
I said this from the top here when talking about Ika. The three at the top, they were all deferred. They were the one that handed down this decision at the end of the day. So that's what happened. Swati was just going along for the ride, and Tori, to me, was the second option. She was talking a lot. She was all over the place.
Yeah.
For you not to believe that, Toast, to me, it little blows my mind a little bit.
Well,
She
Kale,
clearly.
I think you might be misconstruing exactly what I'm saying. I'm just saying that Tori and Drea did seemingly the exact same thing. And one person was perceived one way and one was perceived the other way. Now, that might actually speak to your point, right? You might be saying, oh, Drea wasn't perceived that way because she has good tight alliances. But I'm just saying that for her to say, I don't care if my tribe thinks that I'm going to look for an idol is a little ridiculous because she should probably care a bit.
Yeah, it's
I
not a good sign.
understand. I
probably care.
understand.
But,
blatant
to me-
recklessness is never rewarded.
It's never
in this
good.
game.
But I want to go back really quickly, Kale,
I know.
to Zach not being able to save himself. Do you really think that Zach couldn't? I mean, like, I really do believe that Drea wanted to vote for Roxroy here.
But
Yeah,
they
I
deferred.
think
Do you
she
not
did.
think they could have pulled that vote?
No. Again, after that three was established, when the other three, what Zach's biggest problem is that he was singing with Swati and Tori. That was the issue.
Yeah.
So when those three.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say. I mean, he also kind of did himself a disservice by coming into camp afterwards, saying, "I messed up the puzzle, guys, 100%
Yeah,
on
he
me."
shouldn't have been
I
that-
mean, you guys were already, you were already behind to begin with.
You're
Why
ready.
are you
That's
drawing
true.
that
Don't bring
into
more
yourself?
attention to it. Yeah,
you
a
lost.
mistake.
Basically, the point is, you lost before it was your time anyway.
Well, he basically just told everybody, "Hey, I know I'm the guy you want to vote for now. Like, just don't put it in people's
maybe
heads."
don't do that. Maybe don't do that thing.
There was no strategy at that point that could have saved him other than realignment earlier in the episode, during the day or day one. That's my point. Is that
okay. I hear what you're saying. I have to disagree though. I really do think that he could have done some work if he had worked with Tori, had learned about the Drea thing, wanting to vote for Rock. So I think there was a play there to be made. I don't know that it was 100. It wasn't 100% like you could have saved yourself here, but I think there was a better chance than what he gave himself.
Well, the other element here is that, which I really do love, is that promoting tribe strength during the pre-merge is a theme. So at the end of the day, they could have then targeted Roxroy, which would be, pretty typical for a season 30 plus, way to go about things and knocking off, some of the bigger people on your tribe. But to knock off Roxroy and keep Zach was going to put them at a very tough position.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They're going to be very weak.
Yeah, we talked about the bat. I want to talk very briefly before we hop off here on who do we think is going to do really well and going forward here. Who's like Kale's stock watch? Whose stock went up? Whose stock went down? I'll do mine very quickly. For me, I think Daniel's stock went very down for me. I know I picked him as my eventual winner last week. He's definitely not in that spot for me anymore. I think it was a combination of a few different things. I think it was the bad at challenges. I didn't see a ton of puzzle acumen that I was hoping for with Daniel. I don't think he had a huge showing. The people who have gone up in stock for me is, like we said, I'm sure nobody's gonna be surprised, Marianne. Omar had a big stock rise for me, and also Lindsay. I think I was pretty happy with Lindsay. I know we didn't see a ton of her, camp life and confessional and stuff like that, but I think she did great in the challenges, and it seemed like she had a good thing. And then finally, I know I was pretty positive on him, but I really liked Mike this episode. I liked that he immediately identified in that savvier, sweet,
I was happy
this is a
with
bad
Mike this
scenario
episode.
for
I
me.
like that take.
I think that spoke to a lot of intelligence.
Yeah.
I think
He
that
gave a lot. He gave a lot of added insight. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I really
like
like that. So those are kind of my stock ups and my stock downs.
Yeah, I think you missed one person. I think Jenny too. We can probably all agree on that.
Jenny, obviously huge rise in stock for her as well. That's kind of my take. Toast, I'm going to toss it to you. Who are your stock risers and your stock fallers?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you on basically everyone that you said did well. I think people that did a little bit better, but now I think are in a worse position. This is pretty unique of a take, I think, because it's very specific. But we didn't really think Romeo would do too much. Romeo seemed to be sort of a centerpiece in that whole machinery.
Yeah, his social game was great.
But I think that he didn't get his way, which is one thing. And I think that what he needed to do was get his way, because now, since Zach is out, Romeo is going to be competing in the challenges. And I think Romeo is now putting himself in a position, whereas if he had gotten Tori out, he would be second on the chopping block as far as challenge prowess is concerned, because then Zach would go, right?
Yes.
But I think that Romeo didn't get his way with that. I do think that it's interesting that a lot of the decisions went through him, which is good. But I think that the vote out not going his way may be problematic.
Yeah, but I think that's a very interesting take, and I totally agree with you, where he did better than I was expecting him to. I thought he played well, but I don't think he's in a great position.
Great.
No,
okay.
I'm in complete agreement with that, but I need you to come to this agreement here, because I don't understand how you can't think that Drea's in the best position on this tribe. Who's in the best position on this tribe?
Honestly, I guess it is. It's Drea or Swati.
Such a toss-up.
No, it's not Roxroy.
Yeah. No, it's not Roxroy.
And it's not Tori.
And it's not Tori, but he thinks it's Tori.
No, I don't.
No,
I don't think
he doesn't think it's Tori.
No, I don't. I don't. I just don't think
it's
she was
Swati or
as
Drea.
negative.
I think Drea might run into some issues with how abrasive she is.
Thank you, Simi. We're on the same page here.
We're
on the same page.
I think you guys are.
She showed it over and over again that she was not cognizant of how what she was saying.
If
would
that
be
ends up
received.
being her downfall, I will concede. But my point being is that she must have made some type of relationship that she didn't have a care in the world, unless she's just purely not giving two fucks about anything. But
could be that, right?
But her name was not dropped once. Dropped once. I can at least say that.
No, that's true. You're right.
It was not dropped once.
It wasn't. It wasn't said. I get that. I think that part of that has to do with how essential she is for immunity challenges.
Yeah,
fine. But that still makes her in a good position.
Look, I don't think that we're going to solve this issue this week. I think we're going to have to wait and see as we watch. Kale, I'm going to put it back to you though.
Stock up, Drea.
Stock up, Drea. Do you have any stock downs for this week?
Yeah, Roxroy and Tori and Daniel. I was with you on those three. I think I'm assuming only one person will probably go home next week. And
I think that sorry for interjecting, but I think that if Tori is continually in the hot seat, then I'll concede to you. I think this might be a one-off situation, because she actually is pretty valuable in all of the challenges so far. She is good in challenges. She's done really well with that. I think maybe the social bonds with the older people, as they defined themselves, was lackluster, and that led to her being targeted instead of Drea for doing the exact same thing. But I think that if Ika goes back, which we think they probably will, maybe once or twice, maybe more.
Yeah.
I think that if she's continually in the hot seat, then we could talk about it. But if she's not, I think then we would realize that this was sort of a one and done situation. I want her to stay.
I know we're in disagreement with this, because you said this last week. You think she fits the Angelina mold.
I do.
And yes, I agree that
called it out, by the way.
I agree. I agree with you that she was very Angelina-esque. I wasn't the biggest Angelina fan, and you could at least say Angelina's gameplay was off the rails.
No, but she's fun to watch.
Yes, of course, but her self-awareness was not great, and I think the same. I think the same with Tori.
We agree. I don't think that she's necessarily next on the chopping block. That's all I'm saying.
Well, boys, I'm excited to see who wins this argument. The Toast versus Kale, the Tori versus Drea. It really is a clash of titans. I want to thank you all for listening in this week. Whatever podcast listener you're listening on, Spotify, Apple, or if you're on YouTube, rate, review, follow us. It really helps the show here.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to talk to you guys about next week's episode, see what happens, and until next time.
I can't wait.
Yeah. See you, boys.